Okay, thank you very much. I'm using a different device, that's why, sorry for that. So we are now proceeding to the next panel discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our first panel of the day. And this panel is very well represented. We have 4 panelists joining us on this panel discussion. Just a minute. The panel will discuss the theme, what actions and interventions can be taken to inspire, engage, and empower girls and women in pursuing their dreams in aviation. Our panelists will give us a discussion on what the organizations are doing and how they are faring in terms of inclusion of women in leadership positions, and what actions are being taken to bring about significant change towards gender equity. And just to note what was mentioned by Funke in her preceding presentation, the panel is a panel composed of all women. So we are not a manel, we are a womanel. Funke, thank you. And from the discussions, we will derive from the panelists some of the recommendations that the industry should take and how the gender balance in leadership, as well in the technical roles in aviation, can be breached. Join me in welcoming our very able panelists to today's discussion. Our first panelist is Ms. Elsia Goncourt, who is the Director, Regional Department for Africa at UNWTO. Elsia has held her current position at UNWTO since 2013. She has expansive experience in tourism, hospitality, the airline industry, and destination management. Elsia is a former Deputy CEO of the Seychelles Tourism Board, and before being promoted to the Chief Executive Officer, she held this position, and now after that she was appointed at UNWTO. She is a passionate aviator and a tourism professional, and is an avid contributor towards sustainable tourism development in Africa. Our second panelist is Ms. Adefunke Adeyemi, who needs no introduction. She is the Regional Director, Advocacy and Strategic Relations at IATA Africa. As the Regional Director in charge of Advocacy and Strategic Relations at IATA, Funke advocates for the sustainability and growth of the aviation industry across the region, highlighting its value to economies and societies as an enabler and catalyst for the development of African economies and growth. Funke was honored among one of the 200 globally most influential people of African descent in affiliation with the United Nations Decade for People of African Descent. She is a catalyst of change, a transformative thought leader and influencer, positively impacting the lives and business environment through her passion, her work, and initiatives. Our third panelist is Ms. Charity Muthoni Musila, the representative of Kenya to ICAO, and she is also a member of the Association of Women in Aviation, AWICA. Charity has over 25 years in civil aviation with extensive experience in leading dynamic, multidisciplinary, and multinational teams, strategic planning, trend analysis, negotiations, and project management. She is currently representing Kenya at the ICAO, working in collaboration with other ICAO member states and international bodies to develop an efficient, safe, secure, and sustainable aviation industry. Our fourth panelist is Ms. Bonnie Dibate, the Regional Director, Africa Affairs at Council. Bonnie has a rich background and experience in the air transport industry and has sat in an array of boards. Bonnie has been the chairperson of Tourism Business Council of South Africa, Eastgate Airport, president of the Business Women Association, a board member, and she was a council member of the University of Pretoria and one of the directors of Dark Fiber Africa. She was also at South African Express, where she held the position of the chairperson of Ethics and Transformation Committee. I will be the moderator of today's panel, and to kick off with the discussions, where we have the scene very well set by Ayata, I will ask all our panelists to give us a snapshot of what their organizations are doing to bridge the gender gap. We will start by Elsia to tell us on the tourism side, and Elsia will be sharing with us some of the insights that they have got from the tourism report. And Elsia, I'll request you to share your screens to give us these insights.
Thank you so much, Maureen. Just give me a heads up if you see the screen.
Yes, the screen is showing.
Okay, a very good afternoon to all who have connected today and to the fellow panelists or womanists, as you said. It's the first time actually that I sit on a panel, especially within the aviation sector where we are all women. So cheers to us. So allow me also to express my appreciation to AFRAA for really picking this topic, which is very critical because it gives us the opportunity to discuss the role of women and youth in travel and tourism, but also offer us a platform to promote gender equality in these sectors. And as Maureen mentioned, I will take this opportunity to share briefly with you the findings of the global report on women in tourism that we launched, actually we published in 2019, and also some key recommendations that came out of a conference that was held on women empowerment in Ghana in regards to the role of women in the tourism sector. And tourism, as we have all come to appreciate, is a multidimensional industry that is very dynamic, very flexible, but also resilient. And these are, in my view, essential factors that helps to drive empowerment of women as well as youth and workers in order to be able to sustain and enable the socioeconomic development of the local communities, as well as the disadvantaged group, which we should not forget about. And air transport and aviation, as we know, they are key sectors of the tourism value chain. And today, I believe there are 50% of tourists that are traveling by air. But just to move on to the work that we do at UNWTO, we have been putting a lot of emphasis in enhancing the positive impact on tourism development on women's lives, and in so doing, how they contribute also to the SDG 5, achieving gender equality and empowerment of all women and girls. And since a while now, we have been working with key partners such as UN Women and also other partners in order to be able to bring to the fore this topic of gender issues, and also promoting gender equality and women's empowerment, but also encouraging our member states to mainstream gender issues in their respective tourism policies. So through the Agenda for Africa, as you can see here, the members have clearly highlighted the importance of empowering women and youth to tourism. But also, as I will share with you the findings, you will see that there are two key other priorities that is closely linked to this, and this centers on enhancing of capacity building and also promoting innovation and technology, which is today very relevant in the world that we are living in, especially with the pandemic. So what we did a while back in 2010, with the support of UN Women, GIZ, the World Bank, and Amadeus, we published a first report on global, on women in tourism, And this first report obviously was a baseline study on the situation of women in the tourism sector. But with the publication of the second report in 2019, this report now considers how the situation has evolved since, and it also provides a thorough assessment of tourism's contribution towards gender equality. And of course, even if this was published in 2019, we still feel that there's a lot that is still relevant and adaptable to today's context. And the aim of this report obviously was to examine the key factors that contributes to gender equality in the tourism sector. It also pinpoints to challenges and identifies ways to mitigate the inequality and also to harness tourism's potential to advance the gender equality and women's empowerment worldwide. And as we know, tourism is a sector that contributes to 10% of the world's GDP. It creates about 8% of the world's employment, out of which 60 to 70% are women. And according to the statistics in this report, women represent 54% of the tourism workforce worldwide. And globally, women, I was reading some reports before, but the colleagues from the aviation sector can confirm. I believe nowadays we have women, less than 10% of air pilots are women, and less than 5% of women are in the aviation sector. So we still got a long way to go through, but also it shows in this report, because we touch across the entire value chain of the tourism sector, we've seen that women's role still remain concentrated in the low-level jobs and are underrepresented at the professional ranks. And there are persistent gaps as well in terms of wages. For example, women in tourism are earning 14.7 less compared to men with same working roles and positions. And the participation of women at the highest leadership role is still limited. Today, we see 23% globally of women ministers, for example, and this represents less than 1/4 of the decision makers in the sector. Just to share a little bit, in Africa today, currently we see approximately 14 ministers of tourism that are women. And we know that there are women in leadership roles, for example, when we look at CEOs of tourism boards, for example, executive directors of big companies and international hotel groups, but still it's underrepresented. We still got a lot to do. And as I mentioned, the findings of the report shows that though women make a large proportion of the formal tourism workforce, they are well represented mostly in the service and clerical level jobs, but poorly at the professional levels. And as we've mentioned about the earnings as well, and also a large amount of unpaid work is being carried out by women in family tourism businesses, for example. But this report, in conclusion, what I can say, it highlights that there is a definite need for us to dig more into the data, as well as research on gender equality and tourism, not only in country context, but also the tourism industries worldwide. And to this effect, to further drive the topic, as I mentioned, in 2019, we also held the first regional Congress on women empowerment in the tourism sector. And there again, we came across some key recommendations. It was also, let me just to share as an aside, a time where all African tourism ministers met with the private sector stakeholders under a leadership task force group that was formed in order to be able to continue to help drive some of the key initiatives in assisting women in tourism projects. And I'm happy to say that today we do have a pilot project that is happening in South Africa, being driven by the tourism ministry, whereby we're helping women in the local communities with advancing the different activities that they are doing to attract tourism. But just to touch briefly on the recommendations that we deem necessary to overcome the persistent barriers for women in tourism, we looked at, I believe Maureen, you touched on this at the beginning, on policies to enable gender equality, mainstreaming the gender equality considerations across the board, entrepreneurship, women's ability to access the tourism market. Employment also, we touched on that earlier. Financing, which is very key, access to finance and microcredit. Training, capacity building, education came out very strongly that there is a real need to cultivate the talent of female tourism professionals. Technology, now it's even more relevant. Leadership, I think I've stressed on that quite a lot at the beginning, but also community and civil society to strengthen women's voices in the community and also household decision making. So in addition to these two recommendations and findings, I wanted to also share that we've been launching a series of initiatives throughout when we started with the pandemic, and also to support the members with their response. We've produced a series of recommendations for an inclusive response to ensure that women are not left behind. And one of the 3 inclusive recovery guides that we published earlier this year has a focus on the social-cultural impacts of COVID, with a particular focus of women in tourism. So this guide gives recommendations to policy, but also decision makers, as well as businesses in the travel and tourism sector, for designing, at least keeping in mind, gender responsive measures in response to the ongoing pandemic. And finally, what I can say is that the global context that we are living in, which has been brought on by the COVID-19, has in a sense highlighted how women can make the difference and lead the change for the future of the tourism sector, whilst also accelerating the recovery process of our industry from the impact of the pandemic. And female entrepreneurship and leadership in tourism are now more than ever more essential to help us reduce the gender gap and also to achieve the economic growth contributing to sustainable and inclusive development, leading to the achievement of the UN SDGs globally. And I wanted to end on the note whereby we've seen Ethiopian Airlines celebrating, for example, a first all-female flights. So I just wanted to leave you on this note, as I am sure the debate will now show us how these 2 sectors are really intertwined and what are the role that women are both playing in this sector. So I will leave it here, Maureen, and open to any comments and questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elsia, for sharing with us insights of the global report on world tourism and what the insights are from the tourism perspective. Tourism and aviation are interrelated and interdependent. However, we see the numbers and the initiatives that are being done from the tourism side much better than what is happening in aviation. However, if you look generally, the numbers in general, we have still the underrepresentation of women, and where women are more represented, as you've mentioned, it's on the service side. And from Funke's presentation, the highest number of women at the top leadership roles were at HR director position, which was the highest, and airline women CEOs standing at 3%. Looking at the tourism side, the women who head the tourism boards are about 10%, and there is a lot that we can pick from the tourism to implement on the aviation side. Just to inform our participants that the reports are publicly available that have been presented by Elsia. The link will be shared by our technical team on the chat. Please feel free to access that to download those reports. We'll also include the reports in the post-event material. Now we come to Kanzo. What is the situation at Kanzo? Bonnie.
Thank you so much, Maureen. I think the first thing that I'd like to say is thank you, for the invitation for Kenzo to participate in this. Kenzo is really supportive of women development. I'll start with the Kenzo office itself, where about 80 to 90% of the employees at Kenzo are women. So all women at Kenzo are occupying meaningful positions. Our marketing director is a woman. Our operations director is a woman. So at Kenzo itself, we are really promoting women. Now, when it comes to our members, that's obviously the message that we're sending to our members. We are promoting the empowerment of women to our members. Although Kenzo is actually not a regulatory body, we make recommendations. That is why even with operational good practice, we make recommendations. We don't create policies or laws or regulations which our members, but we do recommend that our members should ensure that they recognize and develop women. Now, when I go to our members itself, unfortunately we're not doing that well. We only have one woman, from Swaziland, who is a director general or the CEO of a CAA, and including an ANSP. So we're not doing that very well. But when you go to the next level, we're actually doing very well. I mean, I have Charity here, who is an example from Kenya, who has been, given a senior leadership position at ICAO by one of our members. We have other members. ATNS is doing very well. Their stats in terms of women at senior position, they're doing very well. So yes, there are organizations like those who are trying, and we are promoting women empowerment or women taking up leadership positions from our members. And we are doing more to that extent. Kenzo has encouraged us to participate in a global PEL net, which is a global organization looking at women in aviation. It's only started. I mean, we've had about 4 meetings, but we're looking at what are the things that we need to do, which I will talk about when I talk about what we suggest we need to do to develop women. Thank you, Maureen.
Thank you very much, Bonnie, for painting a picture on the situation at Kenzo and at your members. Certainly, you're leading by example, but more needs to be done at the level of the members. And from AFRAA side, having a total of 44 member airlines, only 5 out of 44 airlines are currently headed by female CEOs. And at our board level, we have 1 board member for the 2021 board, who is a female, and that's Rwanda Air CEO. She'll be talking to us tomorrow about her story. Last year, we had 2 board members who are female CEOs. So we still have a lot of underrepresentation from our side. And now we come to Charity. Charity, you're also, in addition to being the representative of Kenya at ICAO, which is quite a senior leadership role, even your former post holder, Mercy Awori, was from Kenya, and we are quite happy to see that we have women from Kenya to take such leadership roles. You're also a member of AWICA, so we want to hear from you. What is your story? And in terms of AWICA, what is AWICA doing to promote the development and promotion of women in aviation?
Thank you very much, Maureen, and good afternoon and good morning from me here in Montreal. And I'll start by thanking AFRAA for creating this forum where, as women panel, we can actually share on our experiences and this good topic on how to inspire and engage and empower girls and women. As you said, yes, from where I started as a state representative to ICAO, I find myself as a bridge between Kenya as a state and the International Civil Aviation Organization, and also as a member of the Aviation of Women Incorporated Business Aviation member. Allow me to generally discuss on the status in both ICAO generally and the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority, the organization that has sponsored me to be a state representative here at ICAO, and AWICA as a women's initiative. From my ICAO perspective, as state representative, working closely with the diplomatic bodies at ICAO, that is the council, the 36 members who are sitting in the council right now, and us state representative, we are keen to ensure that states maintain their commitment to the Assembly Resolution 39, which is more on promoting the participation of women. So we are calling for commitments, and through various decisions taken in high-level conferences that the states should focus on promoting women. And the statistics have been presented for ICAO by Chinka and what is being done. I don't need to repeat about that. When it comes to my organization, the Kenya Civil Aviation Organization, also we see the disparity. Statistics now is that 68% of employees of Civil Aviation Authority in Kenya are men, while only 32% are women. And it matters where these numbers are. When we go to the top, for example, we see a very huge decline in these statistics. In the executive director's role, for example, before I came in here in May, I was serving as a director in charge of air navigation services. We were only 2 out of the 6. At the board level, we had also 2 out of all the total board members of the CAA. Currently, I can say confidently I'm the only female director level at KCAA at the executive, and we only have 1 at the board level currently. So you see, we are not doing that good, but speaking on KCAA, we have a commitment by our board that we have established a gender mainstreaming committee. This is going to play like a role of advocating for more inclusivity of women, and also we are keen on domesticating our national policy. As you know, the Kenyan Constitution is very specific on the 1/3 gender rule. So through this committee, they are going to recommend strategies that KCA is going to implement to arrive at that 1/3 gender rule within KCA. And we are also taking capacity building for gender, making sure in every nomination we are well balanced. And we submit reports, we are held accountable at national level. Now, as a member of AWICA is an initiative for women who felt that many women forums in aviation were not totally inclusive. As you know very well, we have women in aviation forums which go to specific technical areas, which is good because aviation is a very wide profession and we all belong to different professional areas. But a time has come where we need to bring all players together in the aviation field, especially if we have to see more leadership, women CEOs. We have to sit together together with those who are technical and those who are actually managing this organization. They are the HRs of the day, the finance managers of the day, the owners of these aviation startups. So we felt in Kenya we needed to form a forum where we bring all of us together, and we'll talk more about the benefits. This association is intended to benefit members and how we can leverage on it to even increase the participation of women in leadership in aviation. Thank you very much, Maureen.
Thank you very much for shedding some more light on what initiatives are being done at even at KCAA level and at AWICA. Now, we are looking at, we have painted the picture very well. We need to do, there's a lot that the industry needs to do to change the numbers. Over the last decade, the statistics are more or less the same. Not much progress has been realized. And having this panel of women, and to say that senior women at various roles, you have each of your personal experiences. So we want to look at what are the stumbling blocks, what are the challenges that are deterring the industry and various entities from achieving this gender gap. We have gotten a very good presentation from IATA, and from the previous session, just to get to understand these figures that we have on the IATA initiative 25 by 2025, one of our participants has asked, what are the metrics that IATA, in terms of percentage achievement of women in leadership, is using? Is there any airline or aviation organization in Africa that has achieved close to that figure? Funke.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So we are looking at the metrics is the target of 25 by 2025. Just to repeat what that means. It is looking at a situation where those industries or airlines who have not yet started the inclusion and diversity journey for women in leadership positions and in technical roles, to begin that process and to get up to 25% as a minimum. And that is the first thing. And then those who have already started that journey is to increase the participation of women in senior roles or in technical or operational roles by a further 25%. Now, as I mentioned earlier from the presentation, we have 3 airlines in Africa that have currently signed up to the initiative. So the data that we have for Africa currently is limited to those 3 based on the metrics. However, we do know that other airlines, for example, Ethiopian Airways, are performing very well in terms of their women's participation in technical roles, particularly in underrepresented roles. And I think they're starting to make some improvements as well on the senior leadership level. So going back to the 3 that we have data for, we know that Rwanda, as an example, who is one of our, the few female board members we have on the IATA board and the only Black woman we have on the IATA board, is the CEO, and she has a robust participation of women at C-suite or executive management level. And this is in keeping with even the country's policy of ensuring that women are well represented across all strata of government and business in the country. So they're in keeping with their strategic initiatives and objectives at which diversity and inclusion is at the heart. Kenya Airways as well, they have quite a number of women in technical roles, in operational roles, and we're starting to see a slow increase in women in senior management level, directors and so on. The same with Egypt Air. So the numbers are what they are. As we said, there hasn't been that much of an increase in the numbers since we started tracking from late 2016, 2017 to date. But that is why the 25 by 2025 initiative is very important. And let me just put it in context as well, just to bring the other side of the discussion. Before the pandemic, African airlines were facing a severe skills crisis anyway. The average age of an African engineer in aviation was 60. And this is, we know already that there are not that many new engineers coming into the pipeline. And so when you have this an aging workforce with not many people coming in to build up that pipeline, it creates a severe crisis. And based on the forecast that we had prior to the pandemic, that over the next 20 years, there will be over 1,000 new aircraft needed for Africa, which would need to be translated into new technicians, engineers, pilots, airline management skills, and all of that. That's really important to think not just about the now, but about what the future holds. And when you put this in the context of initiatives like the Single African Air Transport Market, the African Continental Free Trade Area, and the Free Movement Protocol on People and Goods, it becomes more of an imperative for us to begin to look at how we can quickly include women into these areas, technical, operational, and senior management. I mean, for example, Boeing's pilot and technician outlook for 2021 to 2040 says that 63,000 personnel of pilots, technicians, and cabin crew will be needed in Africa to sustain the market demand post the pandemic and also to support our African initiatives. So these are the key policy imperatives that we need to think about as why it is important for us to bring women and girls into the workforce. Very quickly, let me talk about what we're doing within IATA and what we have been doing. And finally, I can talk start talking about, personal experiences. So within IATA, as I mentioned in the presentation, we started looking at the issue of representation in aviation, participation in aviation through the lens of our initiative called Mosaic. And that then became our diversity, equity, and inclusion program under which 25 by 2025 falls. Through Mosaic, we also did some analysis within IATA, and we noticed that while we had a 50-50, 48 to 52% representation of women and men in the organization, again, those numbers started to look very, very different when we looked at senior management. And so we decided that we were going to make sure that for every position that came up in IATA, through the recruitment process, there would be a deliberate attempt to ensure that women are considered for these roles. But how would the women be considered if they don't put themselves forward to take in the role? And this is one of those biases that was really deeply uncovered, especially during the ICAO Aviation Women in Aviation Conference, the first and only in Durban, I think it was, or Cape Town in 2018. There were a lot of things that prevent women from stepping forward, particularly when it comes to senior roles. First of all, there's systematic differences that are influencing women's aviation careers. If they face these barriers from the start, then it becomes a challenge. And midway through their careers, it more or less, more often than not, forces them, pushes them out of the industry rather than having them stay on to pursue better opportunities. Also, a lot of women, the whole bias thing of, I don't believe that I'm qualified. I don't believe that, if I don't have all the qualifications for the role, I won't apply for it. Whereas the counterpart, who is a male counterpart, would go for it even without being 100% qualified for the role. And so these are some of those issues that as women, we need to continue to encourage each other to strive for continued competencies, but also to take opportunities as they present themselves. And so we did something called confidence and gravitas training for our middle managers, a female workforce, the middle management, that to give them confidence and to help them to understand that they are worthy of going into these female roles. And on that point, let me start with the personal so I can give room to the others to speak. So in my own journey of aviation, coming into aviation, it is clear, and we know this, that it has been a very male-dominated industry and still is predominantly, which is why we're trying to change these numbers. And so how do you navigate within a predominantly male-dominated industry? And the things that I learned over my, almost 20 years now in the industry are what I call the 4 C's, letter C. So let me start with the first one. It's confidence. And that's what that, referring back to the confidence and gravitas training. If without confidence, it's very difficult to go far and to achieve much. And confidence is not arrogance, but it's a belief in yourself, and it's a belief that you can do whatever it is that you set your mind to do. And it's very important that the female workforce in aviation and even in affiliate industries like tourism are confident enough to know that they can do what is necessary and what is needed, either to pursue their careers, to grow, to move into different specializations and skill sets, and to take senior positions. The second C is competence. We've got to continue to learn. We've got to continue to build our competencies and build our skills in such a way that it becomes very difficult to look at any application that is coming from the female workforce and say, oh, well, sorry, they're not qualified. Continue to build your skills, and even in what you're doing, learn it as much as you can, do it to the best of your ability. And that brings credibility, and that helps in terms of being able to move to the next level. The third is capital, and capital here doesn't mean cash or money or funding per se, but basically like, who are you? Who do people say you are? What is your brand, your personal brand? How have you differentiated yourself from the pack? How are you different from the others? And there has to be something that makes you stand out. And the final point is charisma, and likability is important. And this is a very important point for women. We hear a lot about women not supporting each other and helping each other up and things like that. And that is really wrong. We really should be the best, our sisters keepers, and we should be the best version of ourselves at all times. There's nothing wrong with being pleasant. There's nothing wrong with being nice. It helps. It breaks down barriers, and it helps you to move forward. And the final point I'm going to make is this, that within organizations, it's important for us as women to identify not just mentors, but also sponsors. So the mentors are the people who will help you and guide you through the work you're doing and how you go about doing the work. The sponsor is the person who is going to put their hand up for you and say, I know her, she's good, and she can do it. That is very, very important. And that's very different to sponsorship. And that is really critical to career growth into senior management positions within an organization. Who is your sponsor? Identify the people that you think are your role models or that you want to be like within an organization. Cultivate a relationship with them. Let them know that you value them. You feel that they are so important and that they can help you. And just work with them and see what you can do. Doesn't have to be within their department. You can, try and enter into initiatives and so on. These are important points, and these are important points for our young girls and our boys out there to think about, especially, when they're coming into aviation, and for us to build the pipeline. Maureen, I don't know if you're going to go into what can we do to build the pipeline.
Yes, we're going to do that the next round. I think you have given us quite some good input, and we want to give a chance to explore the other stumbling blocks. You've talked to us about a couple of them in terms of why women are not at the leadership roles or at these very technical roles, the cultural biases and issues such as believing in our own selves, lack of mentors. I'll just maybe get some of the stumbling blocks from one of our other panelists before we talk about what we recommend as individuals, as industry representatives for action to be taken, because we do not want just to continue talking about issues. You mentioned the 2018 Gender Summit, to be precise, but we need to look at now, after holding such kind of talks, then what are some of the actions that we can go and implement? And even at an individual level, we are talking about role models, about mentors, but are we ourselves on this panel, are we doing that? Funke, are you someone's sponsor? Are you someone's mentor? Because these are the things we need to do at our own level. The industry is looking at us out there as women in aviation who have made it, but we need to also mentor the other generation coming in. You've mentioned about the aspect of aging workforce. We need to have the fresh from college students now joining the workforce, the women having role models, having sponsors who will handhold them through the career journey. So just to talk about a couple of more stumbling blocks, let's get from Elsia. From your personal perspective, what are the other stumbling blocks deterring women from venturing into leadership positions, apart from the aspect of mentorship that we have discussed and the cultural biases? What is your personal experience?
Yes, thank you for sharing all of these very incredible insights from the colleagues. But I think in addition to what has been said, we have to look at the context of the industry we are working in. It's not just the challenge that comes with the job, but it's a sector whereby we know you have to forget special occasions, for example. You have to forget birthdays. You have to forget weekends, you know. You have to put in long hours. And a lot of these situations tend to deter, especially the youth, the young girl coming up, you know. They think that, yeah, in terms of priority, what do I put first? Is it my career goal where I want to be so many years down the line, or enjoying life, if you would put it this way? But I think this is where the element of training, the element of education, the element of mentorship, and also the base where you come from, your family, because we always tend to say that the mother is the one that keeps the family, that is always the breadwinner. This, for some of us, can help to drive us, to give that passion. But on the other side, you have all the other social elements that, to me, I will call them distractions. But if there is the base, there is the education, the mentorship that we carry these people from a very early age, we will see that it's mere distractions. Of course, we can make time to spend with the family, we can make time to enjoy these other occasions. But I think this is critical also to understand from the get-go. It is a tough environment that we work in. We put in a lot of hours, and especially if you have children, it's even more difficult, because you have to juggle also the household life. You have to juggle the part with your husband, with your extended family as well. So all of this, I think, contributes greatly. But it will take me back to three core things, which is education, giving the right training, but also, like, to, if I can use the word, handheld, you know, like to walk with these youth, to be able to get them to go to that next level and to not be afraid. And I think Fumi did make that point, that you have to have the confidence, which once you've built that confidence and you have the right environment, the right framework, the competence comes with this, because when you are trained properly, you are given the adequate skills, it will help you to reach there. But it takes a lot of commitment as well. So that would be the other C that I will add to the one that you've said, would be the commitment, because you need to be committed in order to be able to achieve your goal and get to where we are going. Of course, we can talk about so many other things, but also I wanted to just go back, as the colleagues had shared at the beginning, in regards to our organization, for example, UNWTO. I'm very proud to say, for example, that today, heading the other regional departments, it's not only me heading the Africa department, but I have other colleagues, women colleagues, heading Europe department, the Middle East department, and so many other of the operational departments that we have within UNWTO are held by women. We have, if I did a quick look at our statistics, about 60% of the workforce in UNWTO are women, but we still got to go a long way in the professional category, for sure. But I think this is encouraging all around. And if we talk about personal experience as well, I think we should also always remember that you can be given all the right tools, you can have all the right environment, but if you yourself don't have the will, and this is where we have to keep on putting the role models up to the fore that people can look up to, that our young child still at school can have somebody to aspire to be like, you know. And if we have more women in these key roles, then I think it will also help to create that culture that we talk about in getting women to be a little bit more focused. Of course, we talk about the issues of payment, the wages, because if you will go more into the details, you will see that, yeah, there is the huge disparity, and even the report we produce shows that there is this gap also in this context. So all of these things contribute, acts as deterrent, but I think more and more this is slowly shifting, because we are identifying what are the tools, what are the ways to be able to get to that point where we have more women professionals in both the tourism and aviation sector. I mean, the one thing that makes us more happy is when an airline, especially from our region, is announced that we've got a women pilot, for example, and just look at Ethiopian Airlines, showing that for one flight from the cockpit right down to the cabin, it was all women. You know, so there is the career progression, and I think a lot of companies are creating that environment to the point that, I don't want to extend, but to the point that we also creating facilities, women with children. Nowadays, there are companies that are creating that space to help give opportunities where the child minding can take place. And this helps for the women to be able to focus on the career, because they know that this aspect is taken care of, that we have if you don't have the social network and structure, there is the extended one that can support you to go all the way. But I think these are key things that we need to keep focusing on in order to be able to continue to see more women in these key career roles.
Thank you very much. You brought a very important aspect that could be one of the reasons that as the career ladder going upwards, we find less and less women, is the aspect of the family, the social demands, because the careers become very demanding. And looking at our African context, some will want to value more dedication to family at the cost of pursuing a high-flying career. So looking at what we have covered from the panel, quite very good insights on what is the situation, what each of our organizations are doing, and how far we have progressed. What are the stumbling blocks deterring the women pursuing such leadership roles, and why we don't have so many women as we move up the ladder. So in a 1 minute, I'll do around the table chance to have, if you can give us your key message, what is your take home on this issue? What should be done that is not currently being done or is not being done well enough, so that we can bridge this gender gap? Looking at the situation of COVID as one of the priorities and the challenges that we are currently facing, but what should we do to promote and develop women in aviation? So I'll do around the table. Give me your parting shot in 1 minute. I start with you, Bonnie.
Oh, yeah, I'm on. You know, the first thing for me that we need to do is to have more and more and more mentorship. We need to hold each other by hand as women. We need to stop the pull head down syndrome, because sometimes, I think Funke made a mention of it a bit, that we sometimes we don't like each other. I mean, unfortunately, I didn't get to tell my story because in all the positions that I've in, the person who assisted in pulling me down was a woman. So we need to stop that. That's the second thing. The last thing is the confidence. We need to make sure that we have more confidence you know, at ourselves as women, and be willing to learn and focus on what we are interested in doing. That would be my parting shot.
Thank you very much, Bonnie. And Charity, what will be your key message?
Thank you very much, Maureen. My key message is actually centralized on networking. Listening to my three predecessors, they have all mentioned about the issue of sponsors, mentorships. Now, sponsors and mentorships are not in a database somewhere for people to pull out and enroll in sponsorship and mentorship. All this happens in networking circles, and women get to be disadvantaged in networking circles. And that is the specific reason why we came up with the WICA, which is an opportunity to bring those who want to be mentored, those who want to be sponsored together. And that way we can hold each other a hand to climb those corporate ladders. And of course, what we need to watch for as women is the silence stereotyping. You know, stereotyping nowadays is not in form of saying you are a woman, you cannot achieve it. They are hidden within our organizational cultures. And I'll quickly give an example. I was serving as a director air navigation services before I took up this position. This position, Amin, was advertised nationally, and I applied for this position. And it shocked me that the response I got from our board and even from my own CEO was that each of them came to approach me. Charity, you're doing very well as a director. I have a good working relationship with you. You have achieved your directorate goals. Why do you want to leave? You know, then I look at them and I actually identify this is a type of stereotyping that is telling me that I should cap my ambitions as a director level. And they didn't mean bad, but it's unconscious stereotyping that is within our organization, which as women we need to watch for. And I was able to articulate my case to both the board and my CEO that I really like it. We worked together, but I have a career ahead of me. And being a director is good, but also representing the state of Kenya is excellent. And that is what I'm going for. Thank you very much, Maureen.
Thank you. Very good story there. And next we move to Funke, your parting shot.
Okay, thank you. So for me, the starting point is executive or leadership commitment to gender balance. That has to be critical. Without that commitment at the top, it will just be, it won't happen. The other is creating a culture within our organizations and even across the industry that intentionally includes women. The third is setting clear goals and targets for leadership, diversity and inclusion, and also for diversity and inclusion in underrepresented and technical roles in the industry, and tie this sometimes to incentives. So incentivize diversity and inclusion. The fourth is the mentorship and the sponsorship. And while the comments that have been made by my predecessors are so correct, networking is important. The women have to play our part and so on. Organizations can also even think about putting in place formal mentorship and sponsorship programs to help our female workforce achieve this, and also to give them career opportunities. Finally, remember the 4 C's. Remember the 4 C's. In fact, the 5 C's now with LCS, which is confidence, which is competence, charisma, a capital, your brand, and commitment. And I want to leave us all, this is actually my parting shot. Look at the future of Africa. Look at our young children. I took this picture, it's my favorite picture of all time. I took it when we had just landed in Margate Airport for the ASA AGM some years ago. And the Margate Airport is a small airport. So we landed in our propeller jet aircraft. And these children are standing right at this is the fence of the airport, right there on the perimeter. Their teacher there, the woman in the black, brought them from school to come and watch this. This is what we're supposed to do for our young people. to inspire them young. And each one of us has a responsibility to do so in our own little way. Go back to your school, tell them your aviation journey, inspire a young person. These people were looking there. I had a chance to talk to some of the children and they were so excited. I want to fly a plane one day, one of them said. Another said, I want to become a pilot. Another said, I want to enter a plane and fly away. This is the inspiration for our future. And this is what we need to commit to doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Funke. And finally, Elsia, your parting shot in a minute.
Maureen, it's always tough when you let me speak the last because everything has been said. But what I want to say is, let us celebrate one another. I think this is very important. We need to celebrate one another. When we see one woman in a key role, let's support that person. Let's applaud that person instead of finding all the negativities or how did she happen to get there. Let's celebrate, and so that we continue to have more women in these key roles. But in addition to that, I think we need greater collaborative efforts within our organization where we work, but also within both the travel and tourism sector. We've been really advocating very hard for this, especially during this pandemic. We really need to collaborate more and do more things together that will help bring these critical topics to the fore. Mentorship, I will not stay on too much because we all in agreement, but education and training, the right skills, we need to make this available, and we need to facilitate and make it more accessible in order for us to be able to have more people in that level where we want in both the tourism and travel sector. And finally, let us not forget, I know I touched on this a little bit, we need to have that work-life balance. So let's create that environment that we can still be the mother, be the wife, be the partner, but also be the professional in our work environment. And again, I will end on, let us celebrate one another. And we celebrate you, Maureen, also for being brave to put up this panel. I think it has been tremendous, interesting and rich. So I thank you all for giving us this opportunity as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much to our panelists, and certainly would have had so much to discuss, to share our personal stories and go into more details if there was more time. But just a very good take-home message is that we are setting examples, we've given some recommendations. We need to walk the talk. I echo what Mr. Barry Kashambo in our consolidation workshop last month very ably said, let us walk the talk. We have so many very good ideas, initiatives, even at policy level on paper, but we need to implement. At a personal level, we are talking about mentoring, sponsoring. Let us be mentors, let us be sponsors. We have the 5 C's, the confidence, competence, capital, charisma, and commitment. Let us put into action our words, and let us give inspiration to the upcoming young aviation professionals who will take our roles in the future. Let us not have the situation of an aging workforce of women, but let us have more and more women being inspired and looking forward to getting aviation roles and enjoying the experience. We have gone through hurdles, hardships, or the stumbling blocks. Let us help alleviate these challenges for the next generation. So thank you for your very able contribution. And this brings us to the end of the panel. Let us meet us at the next session, and we'll have the recording available for those who wish to follow it afterwards. For the next session, please go to your conference application, click on the list of sessions, and select the session that you wish to follow. So thank you very much, and see you the next session. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Maureen. Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.